They bought this thing new 3 years ago, and they paid about $21,000. It's got 45,000 miles on it, and they've been happy with it except for one thing. The transmission sometimes shifts a little bit weird. It's pretty much done so since it had 5,000 miles on it. He's taking it back, and supposedly Hyundai has replaced the transmission 3 times, which I kind of doubt. I don't trust those guys as far as you can throw them. It's got a minor shifting problem with them. It often does happen with these. And Hyundai's not a company that's like Lexus, Acura, or even Toyota and Honda. They don't treat their customers all that well. He admits that he was really manhandled by a dealership that didn't treat him right at all. And considering that they told him after putting in 3 trannies, oh, well, they're all like this. I doubt that they put any in. Maybe they tried a little reprogramming with a computer or something like that. But we'll start from square one. It is a Korean car, but see inside the door, it was made in Alabama. All right, okay, there's one strike against it. But at the same time, it's 2019, which is a good thing. Because originally when they were making them there, they had problems with the machines. They made the engines wrong, and the engines blew up. They had to replace tons of engines. That's not the case in this car. We'll open the hood, and look, it's got hood support. It's not just one of those dumb little rods. Well, there's a plus. See, it's a GDI engine. We'll take the stupid beauty cover off, throw it away like we always do, so we can see what's going on. Now, this isn't a tiny engine. This is a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine. It's got enough horsepower, and as you can see, with the GDI, that's a high pressure fuel pump, it gets good gas mileage. He does get like 38 miles a gallon on the highway. They're made for that. His problem is he doesn't like the way the transmission sometimes shifts a bit funky. Well, we have to get into history for this one. Now, no, it does not have a stupid Nissan Jatco transmission. Hyundai makes almost all their own transmissions now. And this is not a CVT transmission. This is a regular automatic transmission with gears. Like every other modern transmission, you can't check the oil, the dipstick. It's a sealed unit. Transmission makes this whistling sound. Now, it also whines. That was a recording from his phone that he made. Hopefully, it'll make the noise when we take it on a road test, you never know. But they're just saying, oh, that's normal. They normally make it. First thing we're gonna do, hook up my fancy scan tool. In this case, tied behind here. There we go. The magic slot machine is doing its thing. Also updating. These things update a lot. That's what I like about these. And here we go. We know what it is. We want diagnosis. And we know it's a US Sonata with GDI. And you see all the stuff we can check. We're going to do a smart scan. It might take a little while, but we're looking for a real needle in a haystack here. The systems, CAN 1, CAN 2, CAN 3. As you can see, everything is either green or gray. It's all green or gray. Gray means it's not equipped, so everything in it is fine. And this messes with all the transmission control modules too. There's a lot of information we can get. Set the adaptation. We can do all kinds of stuff. I'm interested in the transmission control module. So, read the data stream. Now we're going to select them all. And then we're going to record it all on a road test. Here we go on the road test, and we'll see what happens. We're just going to listen to see if we can hear it. So now we got the data. We can play it back. I can look at all the transmission data. And I like graphs, so let's do them graphs. Graphs are much better. You can see the gears. You can see when they shift. Now the data is perfectly fine, but the little noise that we hear, that's it going into 5th gear. And it's made that noise, he said, basically since he got it. And it really hasn't changed all that much, even though now he's got like 50,000 miles on the car. Now, here's the interesting thing. They took it in and they claim 3 times they replaced the transmission, but they said, all the internals are new, but the shell is still the same. Well, to me, that's a total scam because they probably worried that he get a little engraver or something and somewhere put an X or a notch and say, hey, it's the same transmission. I marked it. And they'll just say, well, your outside shell's the same. The inside's different. Now, they had this thing for 3 months. But at least I do have to give it to the company. They gave him a rental car free. It was one of theirs, new car. He could drive it for 3 months. There was only one problem. If he got any scratches or anything, he was responsible, so he had to be real careful. And he wasn't supposed to drive out of the state of Connecticut, where he's located, so they had to cancel their vacation. Well, that's not too cool, They should have let him go on vacation. Give him another car, give him an older car or something, but whatever. When it came to get it, they said, come back tomorrow, we got to get the paperwork done, blah, blah, blah. The whole time, there was only 15 miles put on the car. Now, it doesn't make this noise when it's cold. It has to be all warmed up. So one, they didn't warm it up all that much. And it was November. When it's colder, it makes more noise when it's warm. Well, use your head. If you got a car that makes a noise like that when it's warmed up, but not until it's warmed up, not when it's cold, there's obviously some type of problem. Granted, it's probably a minor one, but when it warms up, everything is all warmed and seated, and if it makes a noise then, it shows there is wear somewhere that's making that noise when it shifts into fifth gear. And the interesting thing is, if you put it in sport mode, it never makes the noise. So that tells you that is not normal. The sport mode, of course, makes it stay in RPMs higher, so it has more acceleration, then goes down and lets it go higher. So it obviously has something to do with the pressure that shifts it. This is a regular automatic transmission with regular gears, and they shift by pressure differential. It's the pressure of the fluid that drives the vehicle. So when it's in sport mode, it's going to get higher pressures. It doesn't make the noise. So obviously there's something minor wrong. Like I say, it stayed about the same for me. It works okay. But the fact that they said they changed this automatic transmission 3 times, all the parts inside are new, but the shell's the same. That sounds like total baloney to me. No sense trying to figure the transmission out by looking at it, because they admit the shell is still the same shell. So I've had the same thing happen with other customers, and they pretty much gave them the same line of baloney, because obviously they're worried that someone's going to mark the transmission and say, you didn't change my transmission. Then you could actually sue them under the Fraud Act. But, you know, with them saying, well, the shell's the same, but the insides are all different, which you could never prove one way or another. And the fact that they had it for 3 months, and they only put 15 miles on it, is kind of hilarious. You know, it takes like 12 hours to build the car from scratch. Why would it take 3 months to supposedly fix one? I'm guessing they changed the fluid and filter maybe 2 or 3 times and thought, oh, maybe that'll get rid of that little noise that's going through it, but no. Now this is a 2014 Kia Optima Hybrid. The original list price was like $32,400 for this particular model. He bought it used and he paid $17,000 out the door. They wanted more, it said, on a lot, a long time. They don't sell like hotcakes, to say the least. And he offered him $17,000 and he said no, and then they called him back. If you come right now, we'll sell it to you out the door for $17,000. Paid almost half of what the new one was with that small amount of mileage. He hasn't put any money into it yet, but since this fall, the coolant's been leaking a little, and his wife was driving it the other day down the road and it just died. And it turns out it was the main fuse for the hybrid system. Things do wear out, but I'm always leery myself. When a main fuse blows, it's a big amp fuse. It takes a lot to blow one of those fuses. We'll put our scan tool on, do a little analysis. Now, originally it was 125 amp, and the dealer looked up a bunch of stuff. They replaced it with a 150 amp. I don't know about that. The engineers put fuses for a certain rating for a reason, and all of a sudden they start throwing higher ones in. I'm assuming they're finding that the hybrid battery's taking a little more power than it should as it aged, so they're bumping the fuse up so it doesn't keep popping the fuse. Let's hook up the scan tool, see what it says. Now, I do have to say that Kia does have a 100,000 mile warranty on a hybrid system, and he had the stuff fixed for free. They didn't charge him anything. So he's thinking about, he gets to 100,000 miles, get rid of the thing. Because his other car's a Toyota Corolla that's never broken down, and it's a 2003. It's a lot older than this thing is, and it's never broken at all on it. You can see there's no global codes, everything's green. So let's start it up, even though it's not going to do anything because it's a hybrid and it's just sitting here. We'll put the AC on, because I'm hot as can be. You hear the engine's coming on now. The AC can run a little while with the engine turned off, but not that long, and it turns the engine back on. But I'm really disappointed because nothing like my Toyota or Lexus is blow big stream. I'm not getting enough air on me as far as I'm concerned. Let's go to system, OEM enhanced, 2014 Kia Optima Hybrid, yes. Here we go. Now there's no enhanced data either. Gonna check everything, and that's an awful lot in one of these hybrids. You can't mess around with these things unless you have a high level scanner. This is the lowest level scanner that I would ever use on one of these. If things really got hairy, I'd get out my $5,000 scanner. This thing is rated at 35 miles a gallon highway and 37 in the city because it has regenerative brakes. And it's only getting 32, so it's getting kind of low gas mileage. And it's not that high mileage. It's only 74,593. But now there's the scanner. It's done all the modules. Let's look through the modules. The seat belts, we don't really care about that. That stuff's all a bunch of nonsense anyway. The electric parking brake has codes. So does the smart junction box. We'll check the smart junction box and see what that says. Turn signal, right hand rear open circuit. Well, it's working perfectly fine, so who cares about that? And it also says turn signal left rear circuit open. That works too, so we can ignore that. Now you can see something squirrely because the calculated load value is 52%, and the car's just idling. We're not even moving. See, the equivalence ratio is going 1.532, 1.487, 1.47. It's kind of moving around. As you can see now, it's going all over the place. Now it's 1, now it's 0.984. It's really moving around. A car that's just idling should not go all over the place like that. That's probably one of the reasons it's getting pretty bad gas mileage for a car. I mean, I've seen these things get 38, 39. This is only getting 32. As you can see now, it's all the way to 1.484. It's all over the place. Now that's the Bank 1 sensor one. I would advise changing it. There are actually a zillion things can affect it, make it do weird things. But with it vacillating like crazy like that, I would have that sensor changed. And since that's part of the anti-pollution system, Kia should cover it under the 100,000 mile warranty. So really, as an educated guess, I'd say change Bank 1 sensor 1, the air fuel ratio sensor. It could be bad, maybe the wiring's bad, something's amiss there. The voltage is good on the control module. So far I haven't seen anything weird other than that sensor data. The engine has run 16 hours 19 minutes since a trouble code was cleared, so this did have a trouble code at some point in time. So what we basically learned is it doesn't trip any codes now, but it did 16 hours ago of runtime. It had a trouble code on it. Now the owner tells me he wish you would have seen my videos before he bought this, because his old Corollas never stranded them, and this thing now is stranded once, and it's got the oddest thing. It loses coolant, but nobody can find where it's going. Took off, it was on full, now it's down a little bit. Now in 1 month, he only has to add that little bit from the F to the L. It's not that much coolant, but it's going somewhere. And it shouldn't in a vehicle this new. Now, I can't see any leaks anywhere, so I'm gonna tell him to put some ultraviolet leak dye for the cooling system, and then run it for a few weeks, and as he adds coolant, when it's cold, look with the UV light and yellow sunglasses. Pray it's not a head gasket or something going. You never know, and I'm also gonna tell him change the radiator cap. Could be as dumb as it's just seeping a little gas and it'll lose a little coolant over time. Now overall, they're pretty basic engines though. They got normal fuel injection on the intake. It's not GDI. It's not an extremely complicated car except for the hybrid system. Now you can see it's a relatively noisy engine, but with this kind of mileage, almost all Kias sound like this. The quality control in their factory isn't that great. They've had to rebuild a lot of engines with timing chains, valves, piston rings. They're not the most solid engines in the world. But I do have to say, this is probably a better one because this one was made in Korea. The ones that were made in the United States, they had a problem with some of the machinery building them. That's why the engines blew up. He was saying his friend had a 1 year newer Kia with a turbo. They had to replace the guy's entire engine because it went out on him. If you are gonna get a Kia, get a Korean one like this. Look at the door. It says made in Korea. It's a much better bet than buying one made over here, from my experience. Let's take it for a road test. Now, it's pretty quiet. I got the AC on, but you can barely hear anything. And the engine is running now. Gotta say, it is very smooth. Not a fan of the transmission. It's kind of wiggly woggly. Now, this does have a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's not a CVT, but it's kind of wonky if you ask me. I'm not impressed by either the acceleration or the indirectness of acceleration. You get kind of a nothing happens and then it starts moving and makes an awful lot of noise. And take into consideration that even though it was getting like 32 miles a gallon, that was all done in eco mode, the best gas mileage mode of them all, not the power mode. I got it in power mode now and it doesn't seem to have all that much power. Now it doesn't handle all that bad. A little bit of oversteer, but nothing outrageous. But let's see what this thing can do. Theoretically, it has 199 horsepower with the gas motor and the electric motor. So here we go. Well, it's not throwing me back in my seat. And like I say, the tranny's a little wonky. For 200 horsepower, man, doesn't feel like 200 horsepower. It's weak on acceleration. And I'm telling you, as hot as it is today, I wish these blowers blew about 3 times more volume air. I gotta stick my head way up here to get any cool air on me. They just do not blow that well. Now you guys in Korea, where you made this car, maybe it doesn't get that hot in Korea. I know it snows a lot in the winter, but man, it gets hot here in Tennessee, just like in Texas. And you need to upgrade your blower motors to get a little more oomph oomph coming out when it's hot outside. And I do have to say, this manual shift option is absolute garbage. It hardly does anything at all. I mean, you're going down the road, you try to shift it, can't even feel it do much. You downshift, there's a big lag before it kicks in. I am not impressed by this transmission. So in the case of this particular Kia Optima, you get a hybrid. They're supposed to have more acceleration with the electric motor and better gas mileage. This thing has neither. It doesn't have acceleration or gas mileage. Some of that could very well be due because the main oxygen sensor, the air-fuel ratio sensor, the one on the top of the engine, could be bad. It was giving squirrely data. And if it gives squirrely data, car's not going to run right. Because as it runs now, this is not an impressive vehicle, to say the least. I've been in ones that ran a lot better than this. But all in all, considering this car was close to $34,000 when it was new, boy, I could think of a lot of better things to do with $34,000. So buy one of these things. No wonder it sat on the lot for months before the guy bought it. If I would have road tested this car, I would have told people don't buy it. There's something wrong with it. It doesn't go fast enough. Doesn't get good enough gas mileage. Because really, when you step on the gas, yeah, it makes noise, but it really doesn't take off all that fast. And you got a real lag. It just doesn't feel responsive. And considering that the thing stranded them on a highway and blew a main fuse, and what they did was put a bigger fuse in it, went from like 135 amp to 150 amp fuse. To me, boy, I'd be sure to get rid of this thing before the 100,000 mile hybrid warranty was up for sure. So now you know more about the Kia Optima Hybrid and why they don't sell like hotcakes. For the money, not as dependable as a Toyota, not as zippy, nowhere near the gas mileage. Way back then, 2014, $34,000. That's a lot of money to pay for a car like this, and it's already stranded them. So this certainly has convinced me that my idea about not buying Kias is the right one to give to people. Especially with this thing. That's why it sat on a lot for a while, used before they get sold. I'm sure people tried it and they thought, it's not mine, not my cup of tea. Where the Priuses, they've sold millions of them. Kia's not really that much of a hybrid company to begin with. But on the plus side, they still got a little bit left on their 100,000 mile warranty, so they can drive it around like he said. When it gets near that, it's probably time to say goodbye to this and get another Toyota. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.